Hello everybody, welcome back to the PTC Podcast. I'm here today with Pramod. Hello Pramod.
Hello Keith.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell everybody where you were and what story you're going to tell us today?
Well, I was on an expedition. I was in Nepal trying to climb Mount Everest, and I'm back now.
Yeah. So, but when is it? April time? What are we now? July?
I started around end of March, and I came back end of May, and recovering from then on. We're now in July. Yeah.
How's your recovery been?
Recovery has been slow, but slowly getting there, getting back to normalcy.
Yeah.
If you can call it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it. So, rewinding the clock back before Everest, I remember, because for a bit of wider background, you've been training with us since 2020.
Yeah.
Post-COVID. Do you want to give a little bit of a background in your history before that?
Yeah. So I was not into any kind of fitness prior to 2018, 2019. That's when I started getting actively involved into some kind of a fitness. Primarily because of the health issues I had with diabetes and so on and so forth. That was the driver for me to get into fitness and trying to make something out of whatever little time I had. And then I started with a few workouts and things like this, and then I got with you guys around 2019, I think end of 2019 or just after COVID.
I remember actually, you were training in Six Pillar, weren't you?
Yeah, I was training at 6
one of the trainers there, Cav.
Yeah,
which I forgot about until you showed me those photos.
Yeah.
So actually, we crossed paths back then before COVID in the old gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So around 2017 probably,
oh,
2017,
really?
2018. I remember texting you sometime in 2018, and then you got back to me in 2021. So that was quite a response time.
Wow. That was the old systems that we had in place back then. I mean, I don't remember that bit, but I remember everything vividly from post-COVID.
Yeah.
Because one of the stories that we'd been told when you signed up was that you had some heart issues.
Yeah, I had a cardiac issue, and I went through a bit of a scare some time back. And that's when I said I have to take life a little more seriously, especially with related to my health. And I got in touch with you guys, and then life has been different since then.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, post-COVID, then we went to Kilimanjaro, wasn't it, in 2022?
Yeah, I did the Kilimanjaro in 2022. And then I thought that would be one of mountain that I would climb. And coming back from Kilimanjaro, I just got sucked onto another mountain, and I think we did Everest after that in Russia. That was 23, and I thought I'll stop there. That didn't stop there, and in 24 I signed up for Aconcagua in Argentina. I did Aconcagua last year in January, or rather this year in January, and post Aconcagua I signed up for Everest. And here we are. Right. So, how did it go on Everest? Everest was a different story. I think physically, mentally, it's a very challenging journey. It's an expedition that's very long. It's 50 plus days. So you have to be mentally prepared to be there for that long. I think we started well. We did well. I went up all the way up to Camp 4, which is 8,000 meters. And I fell sick at 8,000 meters with high altitude cerebral edema, which is where your brain swells up to an extent that there's no blood flow anymore. And some complications arising out of the cerebral edema. And then I had to make a decision to come down. And I came down. I got evacuated from Camp 2, that's at 6-4. So it was, then I got back to a hospital, got myself treated up, and then trying to recover from there.
So just talk us through that then. Camp 4 is 8,000 meters.
Yeah, 7936.
Let's say 8,000 for a nice big whole number. So talk us through kind of what happened in the lead up to the. Well, firstly, let's just briefly go. When you're doing Everest, it's not just bottom to top. You have to do the rotations.
Yeah, so I started my Everest expedition climbing another peak as part of an acclimatization. I did Mera Peak, which is 6,192. I did that, and then we came back, took a few days of rest at Lukla, and then we started climbing up to the base camp. And from the base camp, you typically do rotations. When I say rotations, you go up to, say, Camp 1, and then go to Camp 2, and then come back down. So the idea is you climb high and sleep low. So we did this couple of rotations, and then took a few days off, took some rest, and then waited for the weather window. The weather window has to open up, and when the weather window did open up, we went back up to Camp 1 again, which is around 6,000 meters, and then Camp 2, which is 6,400, and Camp 3, which is 7,1, and then Camp 4, which is around 8,000 meters.
So you had been acclimatizing, so like you'd gone through the correct, the same kind of routine as everybody does.
Yeah.
And then, because that is the reason we go up to whatever 6,000, your body realizes you're at that altitude, starts to trigger more release of more hemoglobin, more oxygen carriers, we'll say, and then you go back down, and at that lower altitude, there's more oxygen in the air, so your cells have a better chance of going into factory mode and production mode.
That's right.
Then you go back up to a new altitude, cause that same stimulation, go back down and allow the production.
That's right.
So you're on track. Everything was
was on track. We were on our way to the summit, and we rested at Camp 4 one night. That was on one of the days in May. And we were to go up from Camp 4 to the summit the next morning or the next evening. And overnight I fell sick. And when I woke up, I was not in a state to climb up any more higher, and I had to come down.
I remember you telling me, so you guys, was there a delay on the way up on the day before?
Yeah, so we had to reach Camp 4 sometime around 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon, and we got delayed reaching up to Camp 4, and the reason was that there was a very short window on the 19th and 20th. There were 2 days when there was a window opened up, and a lot of people moved up the mountain on 18th and 19th, and that meant that these people were coming back down while we were going up. And on the Geneva Spur, which is just after Camp 3 and before you reach up to Camp 4, there's a small ridge, and there's only space for one person to either go up or come down. So we had to wait a long time, just waiting for people to come down from the mountain and then make space for us. And we got delayed reaching up to Camp 4. We reached Camp 4 around 4:30 or 5 in the evening, and that was like a 2-hour delay, which meant that we could not kick up our summit push around 8 o'clock. Our plan was to kick up the summit push around 8 o'clock in the evening, 7:38 in the evening, and reaching there at 4:35 would mean that I have only 3 hours of rest, so there was no way we could move up for the summit on that night. So our plan was to stay there overnight and then try to push for a summit the next day by evening or early afternoon, let's say 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we stayed in Camp 4 overnight, and then we were to go up to the summit the next day afternoon or evening, and I fell sick.
Yeah, because you were telling me, I remember that you were, the weather had slightly changed when you guys woke up in the morning.
Yeah.
So your group had been asked to go back down anyway.
Yeah, so it was pretty stormy and windy, and we were to anyway go down, but we would have waited few more hours probably, and then maybe the weather would have changed. It did change though, because a lot of people did go up on 20th and summit on the 20th as well. But weather being one of the factors, I was also not physically fit to go up anymore due to my condition. that
So
stage.
talk us through then, like what is it, what do you feel and what are you noticing, how does it feel? You're at 8,000 meters, you're feeling sick, like what's that like?
Well, a lot of things go through your body when you are at 8,000 meters, right? So for me, what happened was I woke up in the morning. I was okay till all over the night, and I woke up in the morning, and I just walked out of the tent just to have a look around, and then I tripped and I fell down, and I knew something was wrong the moment I fell down. And when I woke up, I kind of had all kinds of hallucinations, and I knew something was wrong because I knew it was not normal. And then very rapidly it turned into a kind of phenomenon called ataxia, where your body stops responding, your muscular function disconnects itself from the nervous function, and I wasn't able to move my right leg. I kind of felt my right leg was paralyzed. So I keep 1 foot and then it twists out, and then I'm not able to walk anymore. This was happening, and then I knew something was wrong. I reached out to the guides and said, guys, there is something wrong. And then they looked at it and said, we need to move down now. This is a classic case of haze.
Mm-hmm.
And we waited for a few minutes to see if things can go wrong or things can go right, rather. And it did not. And the complication led to another complication, which was HAPE, the pulmonary edema. So I had like water all over my lungs, and I couldn't breathe well, although I had the oxygen mask. And we took the right decision. We got some medication in, got a couple of Dex tablets, and that took me about an hour to stabilize. Then we started walking down the ridge, and then from Camp 4 all the way down to Camp 3, and then took some rest there, and then back to Camp 2.
So what's the Dex do? It's
Dexamethasone is a tablet that basically cuts down the effects of high altitude sickness. I don't know technically what it does, but it reduces the feeling of hallucination. It brings back your nervous control back in shape. I think probably what it does is it enhances the blood flow to those nervous system, and just to make sure that things are calmer.
And what kind of hallucinations were you seeing? Like, what is a hallucination?
Well,
8,000 meters?
I saw a few few kinds of hallucinations. I saw a couple of rocks, and then I thought this was a cafeteria there with people sitting around. And then I could see wild animals. I was imagining wild animals around. And then I had people who have died long ago. And then they were all over the place.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe you weren't hallucinating.
Maybe I was not.
Maybe you were seeing something new. Maybe you're seeing more clearly. So when you're hallucinating like that, obviously you know that. Are you aware that these people are not really there, and you're seeing the shapes, or are you is your consciousness buying into the fact that are they there?
I don't think so, because I was subconsciously aware that something like this is happening and it's not normal, and I was talking to the people around me, my teammates and the guide, that this is what I'm facing, this is what I'm seeing. Is it realistic? Is there a cafeteria there? Can we take some rest there? No, you cannot do this. This is hallucination. Let's go down.
Is this while you're at Camp 4, or you're on
your
way?
No, while I was coming back as well.
On the way down?
On the way down, yeah. Just on the Geneva Spur. The Geneva Spur is just below the Camp 4. So it's a small ridge mountain. You just climb up.
So even though you're on your way down, maybe just a few hundred meters at this stage, you're actually started to get a bit worse.
Yeah.
Because the hallucination.
It was getting worse, and that's when I had to take the Dex tablets.
Right, that's when you took that.
Yeah.
And are you scared during this? Are you worried? Are you getting anxious, or how does that feel?
I think I was very anxious, and I was worried as to how I will walk down, because it's still about 8-9 hours of walking down, and I have to cross the rocks. I have to cut down the Geneva Spur. I have to get down to Camp 3 and then get down from the Lhotse face, which is very steep part of the mountain, and then get to Camp 2, because that's the nearest point from where a helicopter can evacuate you. So I was more worried, how do I get down and will I be able to even get down? Because I had one guide with me who was trying to help me out, and I was just not able to walk. This was very scary because you still have to unclip yourself, clip yourself, make sure that the guide is around with you. But you have to be with the guide all the time, follow his pace, and you can't be farther away from him. So I was a little worried, will I be able to even make it down? And there were times when I felt I might not be able to make it down all the way. Thankfully, the guides were good enough, and then we got additional support. We got another guide from another team who was also going down, who stayed back with us and said, I'll help you guys out. And he was trying to help me clip and unclip every time. And then there were some places like the Lhotse phase, which is very steep, and I was not able to climb down myself, and they had to make a special system to belay me down, and that required an additional person. Overall, it was, I wouldn't say I was scared, but I was more anxious and worried whether I'll be able to make it down safely.
So when you say you weren't able to go down, they had to do the belay system. Did you ever have to, like, you remained conscious the whole time?
Yes, I was. I think the Dex tablets, they kicked in about 45 minutes to an hour later, and I was able to walk. So this was the good thing, I got back my feeling of being able to walk. Although I was not 100%, I was like limping and trying to get across. My shoe was hurting me as well, and but I was able to walk down. And then I realized that I'll have to make it, and it's all mental at that point in time. It's very easy to say I'll give up and let's see what you can do.
Yeah. So why do you think, any reason you think why that leg stopped working? Like, do you have any guesswork in your own mind as to why that right leg?
Well, it was ataxia. Ataxia is a phenomenon where it kind of disconnects your muscular function with the nervous system, and then you lose control over your muscular activities. This is what ataxia does, and that's a side effect of you having a cerebral edema. And this is what the doctors told me after I came back down, and now I can correlate to what happened there was probably this. And I could feel that I'm not able to lift my right leg, and it's very, very dangerous, and it's very scary that you're not able to move. And at that altitude, at 8,000 meters, there's only so much another Sherpa can do. He can't lift you down. He can't carry you down. Coming down the Geneva Spur or the rock band, nobody can carry you, right? You still have to walk down yourself. So it is pretty scary.
So for the people who have no idea about Everest, and like they just think it's really high mountain that people at the top end up, some people live, some people die. Talk people through, like, what's the experience like, forgetting about the altitude, like you've got your base camp to Camp 1 through the Khumbu Icefall.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about that, like how does that feel where the glacier is coming down, the very icy and dangerous?
Yeah, the Khumbu Icefall is very treacherous, if that's the word to use. Especially for somebody who's not been on a glacier or even if you've been on glaciers, many other glaciers, the Khumbu, I think, is a lot different from the other glaciers in the very fact that it's just moving all the time, right? So you have a lot of crevasses, you have ladders to cross across the crevasse, and you don't know when this ladder can give way. Like on our rotation, we noticed that when we went up, there was a ladder, and while we were coming down the next day morning, there was no ladder because the ladder had collapsed. So we had to take an alternate route and come down. So things like this can happen anytime, and you're on a long ladder which is tied up with ropes. You don't know when it's going to give up, right? So the glacier itself on the Khumbu takes about 4, 5 hours, 6 hours to cross by the time you get up to Camp 1, which is relatively safer than being on the Khumbu Glacier. The huge rocks of ice, and then as big as a building probably. and you know that it's moving, and you keep hearing these sounds of the ice cracking, and you see these seracs on top. It can give up any day or any moment, and you keep looking at it, and and you say, I hope it doesn't give up today, you know. There are avalanches that you hear. And then you get to Camp 1, the relative safety of Camp 1, where you don't have, or you're above the glacier or above the Khumbu ice fall.
Yeah, because see, the ice fall, everything you just said there, that's the bit that scares me the most, is that section. Because the other stuff, it's like, if things start going wrong, at least in my inexperienced idea of myself, I'm in control, I can turn around, I can go back down. It's walking, climbing, but it's kind of, if I just keep going, if I can keep my mental motivation, I can get myself back down the mountain to safety. But then on the Khumbu, it's like any second it can just go collapse.
Yeah. There's a lot of variables at play there. It's not just your physical ability and your mental ability. It's also a lot of nature, and you never know what can happen on that mountain, especially on the Khumbu Glacier. That's, I think, the most dangerous or treacherous part of the expedition. And beyond that, it's tough, but there are no other variables. You know, there are no avalanches, or there are none of those objective hazards that you can get through.
I mean, there was an earthquake in whatever it was 2016, which is also a hidden gem of a thing that can happen in that part of the world.
Yeah, that was around the base camp.
Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting documentary on that. I can't remember what it's called, but I mean, if that happens on any mountain, you're probably getting covered in an avalanche, even if it's the Himalayas or if it's somewhere in Europe. If you're in an earthquake, you're up against it anyway. But the Khumbu falling on you or trapping, because you don't have a chance if that happens. You're gone.
You're just gone.
And your body is going to be spat out in 1,000 years at the bottom of the...
Yeah, you're going to be fresh forever.
Yeah, preserved. Maybe if it melts in global warming, you come back to life. Yeah. Okay, so that's what, 5,300 meters to...
6,000. Yeah.
To 6,000, say. And then from 6,000 up, what's that like? What's happening there?
So I think after the 6,000 meters, which is Camp 1, 6-1 something, you go up to Camp 2, which is a relatively short distance, 6.4 or 6.5. But it's a long walk through the glaciers, on the glaciers, and it's very, very warm. Beyond Camp 1, it's very warm. It's like being in an oven.
Wow.
It's about 40-45 degrees probably on
really?
Celsius. Yeah. And then you're wearing all these down suits and the jackets. The Khumbu is not warm, but I think beyond the Khumbu, where you have the Western Khumbu, between Camp 1 and Camp 2, and even Camp 2 to Camp 3, it's very warm.
And you're walking in the daytime in the sunlight? Is that what it's warm? Okay, so you get kind of
when you reach Camp 1, you would probably reach there by about 10:30, 11 in the morning. If you have left base camp around, say, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right, so you leave it in night. You leave in the dark, in the cold.
Yeah, you leave in the cold because it's safer to cross the Khumbu ice fall during the night, because when there is no sun, then the snow is not melting. So you're relatively safer. And you cut across the Khumbu ice fall. You reach Camp 1 around 10:30, 11 in the morning. Take a few hours off, and then you start walking up to Camp 2. So between Camp 1 and Camp 2 is the Western Khumbu, which is 3 mountains on each side. And it's covered with mountains, so there's no air. There is lack of oxygen, and the sun beating down, reflecting off the mountains and the ice. It's very hot, very, very hot. And with the down suit, it makes it even more uncomfortable.
So you got your down suit on at that stage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just makes it so uncomfortable to even walk up the Western Khumbu. But that's a 3-4 hour kind of a walk. So you reach Camp 2, you just take off for a few days.
So you got Camp 2 for a few days?
Yeah, typically on the rotation we stayed in Camp 2, which was for about 3 nights. So just to make sure that we're acclimatized well.
What's the altitude?
6.5,
Okay.
6465.
The 6.5 is the top of many mountains.
Yeah, it's like the peak of a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So,
just hanging out in your tent.
yeah, I just
breathing.
stay in the tent and,
What do you do on those days off?
well, nothing much to do. Just sleep, take rest, and probably read something. Or, I mean, you can't carry a book. You read something on your phone.
How you got power on your phone? Battery? Just
A
power
battery
bank?
packs,
Yeah.
and that's it.
And the Sherpas are making food?
Yeah, the Camp 2 has got, I mean, it's as good as a base camp now.
Okay.
It's got all the facilities
Okay.
that you would have at the base camp in Camp 2 as
So
well.
what kind of facilities are they? What is base camp?
Well, there are toilets, there are cooking camps, there are kitchens, there is food available, there are Sherpa.
This is base camp, sorry.
At the base
Yeah,
camp.
yeah.
At the base camp, you have even some of the TVs and Netflix and internet and all
Oh,
of
nice.
these. Yeah. Camp 2 is pretty similar to Camp 1 base camp these days. You know, they have almost all facilities. Some expeditions even have an internet access available at Camp 2.
Yeah, because you were messaging me from some of the places.
Yeah.
Must have been base camp, maybe.
I think up to Camp 2 we had internet available everywhere, and we were able to access internet and send out messages, make sure that the family is aware of where you are going and you're still alive.
Okay, so yeah, let's delve into the family then. What was Smeeta saying when you told her you want to do Everest and the boys?
Well, when we started, it was they were a little worried though, and but they were very supportive. I wouldn't have done it without their support. I think their first reaction was, why do you want to do this? I mean, isn't there anything else that you can think of? But then I think they came around and they said, okay, you can go ahead and do it.
How long did they take to come around?
I think it took them about a month and a half. I had to melt a lot of ice there before the expedition. Yeah.
So like, what was the mood at home when you told them? Like, did you have to sit down and watch a lot of YouTube videos with them? Did you have to show? Like, did they? I guess they were anxious, eh?
Yeah, I think we did a lot of these sessions where we spoke about the objective hazards, what could happen, what we would do if there was a situation that's out of control, and also it was more important to bring out the positives and say, look, this may not happen to everybody. This may happen to one in a million people or 1 in 400 people. Not everybody gets through avalanche. Not everybody gets through a hape or a haze. It's not necessary that I will fall sick. You know, so you take a lot of positives around and say, all of these accidents that you see find out why they happened. Somebody was stupid enough not to use oxygen. Somebody was stupid enough to take off the mask at some point, or not taking the safety part of it. And we covered all the bases and said, okay, we're going to make sure that I'm not going to do any of those things, and then we are relatively safer. So that, I think, brought in a lot of confidence, and they said, yeah, okay,
Cool.
you're on your way.
Yeah, good. I mean, that is the big worry, isn't it? I know when you went, I got a message from you. You know, in the build up to it, we were talking quite a bit, and then it goes quiet, and people here in the gym are asking, "What's the update?" And I was like, somewhere at this altitude now. I don't know, this day, took 2 or 3 days off the grid. I knew I was tracking it enough that I knew when the weather windows were.
Yeah.
So I knew, like, there's nothing happening now. So if you're somewhere out of contact, you're not at the summit because the weather window's not there. So it's like relatively safe zone. It's safe to assume. It's fair to assume you're relatively safe at the moment. Yeah. But there seemed to be quite a bit of internet, quite a bit of connectivity.
Yeah, the connectivity is pretty good out there. You will have instances where there's no connectivity, maybe in Camp 1, Camp 2 and above. Beyond Camp 2, of course, there's no internet available. That's when people get worried that what's happening with this guy. But there's always a mechanism to connect back to the family. You can radio out to the base camp, and somebody will connect the message out to the family and say, he's here, he's there, he's safe, he's not safe, he's well, he's unwell, he's had his food, so on and so forth. I think that part of the communication is still fine. I mean, you used to have a workaround even if you don't have access to the net and you're not able to message across. But I think, a lot of people got worried when I was not able to communicate back. But I think that's normal, and we knew that this is going to happen. There will be few days of radio silence out there, but then
it's all part of it, isn't it? So what do you reckon was the hardest part of the physical challenge on the mountain?
Well, the Khumbu Icefall is definitely the toughest part to cross, and then the Lhotse face. That's to me, these two are the toughest parts of the climb. I think it all boils down to your muscular endurance at the end of the day, physically, because you have to keep doing this one step after another every time, and it's just not stopping, right? So, for example, if you're crossing Camp 2 to Camp 3, when you have to get across the Lhotse face, which is a very steep vertical wall, 60-70 degree kind of an incline, and it takes you about an hour and a half to just get across the Lhotse face. And those 2 hours of a climb is physically demanding. You have to use your shoulders, you have to use your hand, you have to use your leg, kick in, and then you have a backpack on your back which is heavier, so it makes that much more difficult, I think, physically. Then environmentally, I think it's also difficult to get adjusted to being away from home for 52 days and then staying in a tent. The wind is flapping all through the night, so you don't get good sleep. I think you're fatigued, and there's lack of sleep, and these are some of the physical challenges. I think beyond that, it's all mental. I would say 70-80% is mental. But there are times when your mind says, you can do it, let's go, but your leg is not moving. What do you do? I mean, you're not able to put another feet forward. So I think it's a combination of both, but it's more mental than physical, I would say, on Everest. There are objective hazards like the Khumbu is there, the Lhotse face is there, the Geneva Spur is difficult, only because it's a narrow ridge that you have to walk across. And I think beyond Camp 4, there are other points like the South Summit and the Hillary Step, which are even more difficult. But I haven't been there, so I don't know what it would be like. But I can visualize what it would be. Mm-hmm. Very, very physical. You have to keep your mind trained that it's going to be next 8 hours or 9 hours of this walking, and there is nothing else. Mm-hmm. And when you have that set in your mind, I think then a lot of things becomes easier.
Did you feel prepared for it?
Well, from a physical preparedness, I was. I think thanks to you guys, to a large extent, I was physically never in a doubt of whether I'll be able to do it or not. And the very fact that I was able to go up to Camp 4, which is 8,000 meters, and I was probably another 8-9 hours away from the summit. I think I was mentally prepared for it, and physically as well. Even when I felt sick and I was coming down to Camp 2, I think my first thought after I reached Camp 2 was I would probably spend a few more days taking rest and then wait for the next weather window and go up. So physically I was never in doubt. But it's just that after I came back to Camp 2, I realized that it's not safe to go back up with my condition.
And then, so from there, then you just went. Well, you did 1 or 2 nights there, or you went straight back down.
One night at Camp 2, and
then
you
got evacuated.
And then I got evacuated.
That's a helicopter out.
Yeah, helicopter route all the way to Kathmandu.
To Kathmandu.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you went to Lukla.
Lukla first, and then to Kathmandu. I stayed in Lukla for a night, and then the next day back to Kathmandu.
And then when you were in Kathmandu, how many days are you, like, let me ask you a different question. At what point in that descent are you feeling like clear-headed, not sick?
I think after I came back down to Camp 2, I was relatively clear-headed, back to normal in my thinking. Although I was not able to breathe well because of my lungs, being filled with water.
Right.
But I think I was okay. Mentally, I was fine. There was no more hallucinations. I was able to move around. I was able to walk around. There was no problem after I reached Camp 2. So I think it's got to do with the altitude. Once you get off the altitude to a certain extent, then
it settles itself.
It just settles down.
It's almost, we spoke about this before when you first told me, it's almost like a blessing in disguise that you showed up to Camp 4 delayed on the afternoon before you fell sick.
That's right, because if I had moved up from Camp 4 towards the summit, and if I would have fallen sick there, it would have been a even disastrous event.
Way worse, eh?
It would have been fatal.
Yeah, because the timeline would be that you get to Camp 4 on time, you leave at 10, 11 o'clock at night, whatever. What actually happened was the illness hit you at whatever, 8 or 9 the next morning.
Yeah.
So if you're on your way up through the night, either it hits you much earlier in the middle of the night, or you're somewhere higher up at 8 or 9 a.m. When this thing is kicking in.
And there's no way you can recover from there. And I was lucky to a large extent because there was this other teammate of mine who had these dexamethasone tablets, and I had not carried them myself, but luckily she had it, and I borrowed it from her, and she had the mind enough, presence of mind enough that, okay, let me give you this now. And she was a trained physiotherapist, so she knew that something is wrong.
Well, that's also lucky again in that you guys were all on your way down.
Yeah.
There wasn't a splitting of the group, and they didn't go up and you're down.
No, we all came down.
You all came down.
We all came down.
Yeah. So again, there's another bit of fortune there. Someone's looking out for you.
Yeah.
one of those hallucinations are like, he's not listening to us in our hallucination sense, so let's just get him down the mountain.
While we were coming down on the between the Geneva Spur and the Yellow Band, there was this gentleman who was coming down and completely exhausted. He had summited probably, and he was coming down. On his way down, he was completely exhausted, and he was unwilling to move, and he was so exhausted that he just cannot move anymore. And the Sherpa tried to coax him, convince him, let's move down. He was just not moving, and the Sherpa said, there's nothing we can do at this altitude. Sherpa left, and then this man died on the...
Were you there for that?
No, I knew the story, but I saw the guy. The guy hanging there on the yellow band, on the rope, and this was the story. He was just not able to move anymore, and he did not want to move anymore. This is what altitude does to you.
No, that's. I mean, look, there's 100, 200, 300 tragic stories like that.
Yeah,
you can. Let's not take the tone down a little bit and go into those, but it's something I assume it's unavoidable to not think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to get carried away with these kind of thoughts, but I think it's better not to think about them and just say, okay, these happen, and move on.
It's that easy.
To me it was, because I just shut it off the moment I saw a body or something, and then I just shut it off and said, okay, this is not, maybe...
Aside from that guy, did you see many other bodies?
I saw 2 more.
Yeah, wow.
I saw 2 more. Just before Camp 4, there was one gentleman who had passed away. Again, he was also exhausted probably, and he could not move anymore.
Was that this year, or it looked like that was from previous years?
No, this year.
Oh, really? Wow.
But fortunately, I think this year there were very less casualties compared to the other years. So, not many.
Yeah. No, look, it's a tragic thing. You don't know. It's when you're sitting at home, hearing stories or watching YouTube or watching documentaries on it. It's very easy to make an opinion of. What are these people doing? It's suicide. Why should they do that? But the more you learn about something like Everest, you learn about what it takes. You learn about the experience to Khumbu. What it actually is. Those risks become less.
Yeah.
They become less scary, less terrifying. The more you understand something, the kind of less you fear it. But there is still that curveball of the altitude. There's the curveball of bad weather.
Yeah, there are a lot of variables that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And you just have to be fortunate on a mountain. That's it. I mean, You don't know what can go wrong at what point. Anything can happen to you, and it can happen to anybody. I mean, you can be well prepared, you can be physically fit, but something else can go wrong. So it's always a variable, and like you said, it could be a curveball of an avalanche, or the ladder can break down, or anything like this. In our group, while we were doing the rotations, we know that there was this lady who was trying to cross the ladder, and just before she could cross the ladder, 3 of our teammates, they crossed it, and the 2 of them were about to cross, and the ladder collapsed, and they had
somebody on it.
Sorry,
was somebody on the ladder?
No, there was nobody on the ladder. The ladder collapsed, and they had to wait for the icefall doctors to come up and then fix the ladder. Now that's like a 2-3 hour delay, so you're just waiting there. Luckily, it was not at an altitude where you need oxygen, so you don't run out of oxygen. But yeah, things can go wrong like this at any given point of time.
That was your team, was it? Your teammates?
Yeah, one of our teammates. They went for a rotation 2 days before us. 3 of them moved ahead. 2 of them got stuck because the ladder collapsed, and they had to wait for the icefall doctors to come in and then fix those ladders again.
So let me ask you then the big question. I'm sure a lot of people have asked you is, what makes somebody want to climb to the top of Everest? What made you particularly want to do it?
For me, I think it was just the thought that, can I push my physical ability and mental ability and see what I can achieve? That was my thought process. It could be different for different people, right? Some people want to say, I want to climb the tallest mountain in the world, or somebody might say, I want to finish all the 7 summits, or so on and so forth. While those are probably going to happen at some point in time, for me it was more of physically, am I able to do it? And what better than saying that I attempted the tallest mountain in the world. That's my physical ability. So that's the way I looked at it, and that was my driving factor and nothing else. There could be byproducts, like you climbed Everest, you summited Everest, you did the 7 summits, you did all the 14 8,000ers. I don't think that was my thought process. It was more of seeing what physically, mentally, what can I achieve. This is it.
And how do you feel now that you sort of got to 8,000 meters, but it wasn't due to something you did or didn't do that forced you back?
Well, there is a disappointment that I couldn't summit. That's always there, but it's been 2 months since I'm back, and I'm just processing all of those thoughts, and it's different thought every day. At some days you feel maybe I could have done it. Some days you feel good I did not do it. It's just a mixed bag of feelings.
Yeah, I mean, we've done not anywhere near Everest, but the first Kilimanjaro I did, we turned around, and then Kazbek, we turned around. So obviously on a different scale, you've a lot less on the line when you turn around from Kazbek than when you've put so much time, effort and energy into Mount Everest. But yeah, I can sort of relate in that sense that it just bugs you. It just doesn't go away.
Yeah, it doesn't go away because you put in all the hard work. You've done everything that you had to prepare for. We trained 18 months prior to the expedition, and that's a lot of work that went into it. So there is that sense of disappointment, but I'm also glad I'm back safe. That's more important than having summited.
Yeah, look, for sure. Nobody will argue that. Let me ask you one thing. From what you thought the experience would be compared to what it was, what was the biggest difference?
I honestly thought it would be a lot more tougher than it was. I don't know why, but probably I was better prepared. You see all these YouTube videos of climbing Everest and people who try to get across and they fail and they come back, and people who succeed and so on and so forth. And then you form an opinion and say this is how it's going to be. But for me, I think it was not that difficult. I think it was a lot more easier than I thought it would be. That's again probably because I had visualized a lot of these parts, watched all of those routes over and over again. I think I must have watched videos of the route between Camp 1 and Camp 2, Camp 2 and Camp 3, or Base Camp to Camp 1, crossing the Khumbu. I watched these videos many times over, and I had visualized what it's going to be, and it was pretty much similar. So it was a lot more easier for me to. But I had to be honest, I had thought it would be a lot more tougher, but it wasn't. On a scale, it wasn't as tough as I had thought it would be.
And would you do it again?
I don't know, but I would probably think of it, give it a few years time, and then think of it at some point and say, okay, this is unfinished business, let's go back. But I don't know, still I'll have to.
Would you do anything differently the second time, or what advice would you give anybody thinking about doing it? Because you committed hard, like this, like the hours that you put in, like watching your Strava or whatever the apps you were showing me on the way, because you're quite data driven, so you recorded everything. Like you really committed to it, and you through no fault of your own did that boogeyman show up at 8,000 meters and just steer you back down the mountain for safety. So like, do you think you would do it all again?
Well, I don't know if I'll be able to get back to the same intensity again, because it was 18 months of effort that went into it. It's not just the physical effort, it's about getting up every morning, walking on a stair climber for 2 hours, or every Sunday walking on a stair climber for 4 hours, running 20 kilometers every week, and you keep doing this over a period of 6-7 months. It's not easy to do it, and if there is a goal in sight, I think that makes it easier. But if I have to do Everest again, then I'll have to get into that frame of mind that 18 months from now I'll have to climb Everest. So it's tough. It's not easy to get back to that again.
No, but I've got news for you, P. You're going to find it quite easy to get back to 50-60% of that now, because all that 18 months is not going to be wasted.
Surely.
We're not in our 20s, but like that physiology will be there. I assume you're going to pick another goal you will have to train for. Like, again, these things don't just go from 0 to 1. You creep towards it. So next year you might book a different mountain or a marathon. And now you're doing 20 kilometers a day, and then these things snowball, for lack of a better word. So I don't think I keep coming up with these puns in my head. I don't think the mountain is that hard to climb to get back there. I think you're imagining it's going to be exactly the same, whereas I think it'll be easier mentally. Physically, the hard work has to be done.
It could be easier the next time around, because I know what to be prepared for. I know I have to be. And then you leave out the variables that can happen. You can fall sick, you may not fall sick. Just leave that out, and who knows?
Who knows, people. Look, thank you, mate.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. Thanks for sharing your story, and glad you came back safe.
Thank you.
It's everyone here was super interested, and I wouldn't say worried, because people don't know what they're really worrying about. They think they're worried, but they don't really know. They're more concerned and hopeful that you come back safe. And we'll see what the future holds.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.